So with all that process what we have been seeing with respect to your functions and other operations, we'll start moving more towards the industrial thinking by understanding how we can start developing the integrity-oriented databases or qualitative databases. The major part of the things what I'm trying to discuss with you, even though it is part of the database administrator's job, one of the questions that arises for the student is, so when these things are done by the database administrators, why I need to keep my head into this? What your database administrators are doing, if you do not know, you will never know how to write your program with high level quality. So I don't need to be an administrator, but I should understand what my administrator is doing. As your experience goes on increasing, definitely industry will question you on the fact of the requirements with respect to that administrative process. Even though you are not done the administration, it will ask you, how did you communicate with the administrator? When did you communicate with him? For what purpose you have communicated or you have been communicating? Then you need to have your proper answers. Therefore, no technology is expected to be built without quality. So even though Oracle is qualitative by its nature, the application what you are developing, is it qualitative or not? Your application what you are developing is not qualitative by nature, then there is no meaning and nobody will try to utilize your application. You cannot say, my Oracle is qualitative. Your Oracle is qualitative or not, I don't care. Your application you developed on Oracle is qualitative or not. So when you speak about integrity, it is one of the components that you have to definitely achieve whenever you are trying to work with applications. So what do you mean by integrity now? It is one kind of state. Integrity is one kind of state in which all the data that you are collecting into your database or all the data that you are storing in your database is 100% correct by itself. Well, not even a 0.1% of the business data is looking incorrect or it's not correct by nature. If you can promise that, then definitely we can say that it's data integrity oriented. There are 4 types of data integrities, but one thing you should always remember, quality is something that should be promised to the end user. So I just want certain answers from you. Suppose like you are the owner of some business and you're having 5 people working under you and your attitude is to give 100% quality to the customer. Now, who should take the responsibility for that? You are the owner and you are having 10 employees under you and your attitude is 100% quality by nature. Means as an owner you are not ready to compromise with quality. Then who should take the responsibility for that particular quality? Owner. Who should implement that particular quality? Employee. So how you can promise that your employee can understand your ability and your requirement? What will be the fundamental nature of an employee? Can you tell me? You all will become employees. Can you tell me what is your fundamental attitude? Work for the best or work? Work. Generally an employee's attitude will be, I should just do the work. His attitude will never be, I should do the best. But the best is always the employer's choice. Work is the choice of the employee. Then how you can make your employee deliver the best? How you will make your employees to give the best? As an employee, what you are expecting? If you have to give the best, what your employee should do for you? Can you just tell me? You don't have any expectations. High pay package. I'll show you so many organizations where highest pay package is given but quality is never given. You give anything to the human being, man. Finally, until we don't force him, he will never give quality. You give anything. You give richness, you give highest salary, you give a house that is built with gold. First 1 week he will give quality and after that he thinks like, isse bada dena hai. And he never gives. The nature of human being is that. Therefore, when we come to the implementation, we have only one formula, that is enforce. Enforce. Means be rigid by your qualitative standards and make the employees to understand. If they're not understanding, force them. If you force and they don't listen, remove them. Simple formulas. So giving highest pay package doesn't mean that, or highest facility or the best facility doesn't mean that quality is given. So when you come to the rule of the human being, we have only one fundamental formula in software engineering: to get the quality out of the human beings, start enforcing them. So enforcing means what? It is a straightforward mechanism to tell the client, to tell the employee that I need the work only in this way. If you can give it in this way, you are inside. If you cannot give like this, you are outside. Else no work will happen in your life. Therefore, you need to first understand this particular factor very clearly. Therefore, quality is ensured. You can ensure the quality by enforcing the criteria and the composition of the integrity. Means what is the quality you have to enforce and you have to say. If you don't enforce that particular quality, what you are expecting, you cannot ensure the quality to the end user. That's the only reason, generally, employees and employers, employees in management, they don't ever try to be in the same frequency. You go to any good company, employee always says that my management is not good. Management always says that employees are not working to the standard what I am expecting. But finally, management wins. Why? Because in a corporate world, management always has its focus to what it is expecting and it knows how to take it. An employee doesn't feel comfortable, he has to leave, that's all. There are no criteria of promises that are applied and adapted. Be very clear about this. If you are coming into the software industry, the only thing what I say is, you have the attitude of giving quality, you please enter. You don't have the attitude of giving quality, think twice. Why? Because in this industry there is no security for your job unless and until you don't give the way the industry is demanding from you. So there are four categories of integrity. One is entity integrity, the next is domain integrity, the third is referential integrity, the fourth is user defined integrity. If we can manage these four integrities in one single place, 150% quality can be promised. If these four integrities are applied in a very proper way, the product comes 100% qualitative without any complaint on the rule of the end users. Each one is a big lot of subject by itself, but we'll just make it as simple as possible to make the things faster for us. Now you should always understand, every database management system software will definitely try to keep itself promised for achieving these four. Certain database management system softwares can provide all the four facilities. Certain database management system softwares can provide only few facilities. Now whichever it is providing, you should utilize it. Whichever is not provided, you should plan, program and achieve it. There is no compromise behind this. Be very, very clear about that. So, whenever you are coming with entity integrity, this is the first level integrity we have to always achieve. So, what do you mean by entity integrity? It is one kind of rule that dictates that your data within your particular entire table is never duplicated by its nature. Means your information, what you are storing in your system, the information what you are keeping in your machine, with respect to your business is never duplicated. So it defines every row in your table to be unique by its nature when compared with all the million records that are available within your table. So entity integrity major concentration is what? Uniqueness of the information. Uniqueness of the information. Entity integrity can be enforced in databases with the help of a concept called as primary key. Entity integrity can be enforced with a concept that is fundamentally called as what? Primary key. Be very, very clear about that. So whenever you are trying to work with the criteria of the entity integrity, it is something what you should understand first, rather than saying that I can declare a primary key. Every student who learns databases can declare a primary key, not only you. But how many number of times you understand the purpose of the primary key? That purpose of the primary key is not understood, then it's basically waste now. So if you say, I know how to declare a primary key, we don't get enthusiastic. The next 10 to 15 minutes of the time is only by you, and you have to participate, and I'll help you. The main concept of the entity integrity is every record in your table should be unique by nature. Now what do we mean by uniqueness now? People generally think that uniqueness means every value in every column should be unique by itself. No. Uniqueness here means when you take two records from your table, these two records, when they are compared with one another, by any one column they should be unique by nature. Means if I am having 10 columns of data, let us say, all the columns of data by two records is unique, it's good. But 9 columns of data is duplicated, same. And only one column of data is unique by nature, it's unique only. So uniqueness doesn't mean that two records should contain unique data from first column to last column. If any one of the column is containing unique information or unique data, those two records are unique by nature. In that way, if every record can promise me uniqueness, the table is in which state? Entity integrity state. The table is in entity integrity state. Now, I want your answers according to your participation. I will confirm the things now. Now, this is my first record that's going into my table. Only one record is there in my table. Do I have any problem of uniqueness? No. So I try to understand one thing. For everything in the world, there should be some unit of measure. Now when we say I need quality, what is the unit of measure of quality? What is that unit of measure for quality? When you see something, you are saying it's qualitative. What is the unit of measure you are applying there? The most difficult thing in the world is only to give a unit of measure for quality, because it's finally the end user who should satisfy with it. So there is no special standardized unit of measure for quality, because it is something that has to be accepted by the end user. Therefore, be very clear, quality is something that comes into the picture only when comparison is there. When comparison is not there, quality is not at all a concern of analysis. Therefore, when one record is there in your table, you don't need to really think about the quality and integrity, because we don't have any comparison for that. Therefore, quality comes into the picture only when the second record comes into the picture. Therefore, when two different objects are together in one single place, the cross comparison of the objects will start. So, I have my own question. Is the first record to the second record, they are unique or they are not unique by nature? They are unique. Unique by course name. Unique by course name. Now, whenever you are trying to work with the process of this implementation, when compared with the first record to the third record, are they unique or they are not unique? Unique by name. Coming to the fourth record, they are unique or they are not unique? Unique. Unique by date of admission. Now, by fifth record, they are unique or they are not unique? Unique. Unique by date of birth. Now, the sixth record is unique or it's not unique? Unique. Unique by course name, course fee, many number of columns. I told you, at least one column is compulsory. Even if it is more than one column, that doesn't matter, it's unique. Now in this table, all the records are unique or they are not unique now? They are unique. So can we say it's having entity integrity or it's not having entity integrity? It is having entity integrity. Why? Because all the records what we are having in this table are unique by nature. That's the difference between a normal developer to an administrator. A developer will understand the definition as it is. A technical person or a professional understands the definition by its reality. So, you are looking into this table only by these 6 records. Therefore, you said it's unique and it's entity integrity. If you ask a professional, he says it is not in entity integrity. That's how confusion starts between you and your senior. So just now you said, if we have a table and in that table if every record is unique by nature, it is having entity integrity. Yes, even now I am saying the same thing. I said every record doesn't mean that these are the only records that can be part of the table. Even if the next record comes into this table, can it be unique or not? In that way, in this table, if million records are added, can you promise that every record you add into this table, even after million years, it will be promised for uniqueness or not? That is where entity integrity comes into the picture. So I can definitely say that the data in this table is unique by nature, but this table is not in entity integrity. So how you can say that this table is not in entity integrity? The simple thing is, after 25 records are inserted into this table, keeping the uniqueness in this table is almost all impossible. Why? You will understand the rules now. You are speaking and you are understanding. 2 students can have the same name? Yes. Can 2 students have the same date of birth? Yes. Can 2 students have the same date of admission? Can 2 students join the same course? Can 2 students pay the same course fee? Yes, all the columns are in which cardinality? 1 to many. When your table is having every column in 1 to many, definitely the table cannot promise primary key or the table cannot promise entity integrity. Because of some column, definitely the data will get duplicated anytime. And you cannot promise entity integrity. Data uniqueness can be promised, but you cannot promise information uniqueness. So, in this table, you said 6 records are unique by nature. Do you agree with me? Yes or no? Can you tell me by which column they are unique by nature? They are unique by which column by nature? We don't have any clarity in that. Any column. Now I have few questions for you. If you say they are unique by student's name, can we say that 2 students cannot have the same name? No. So when you put a question of uniqueness, every column will fail. Therefore, an administrator or analyst, when he is analyzing the table, he is having a different vision in analysis. And on that he will move the process. So for a normal developer, what is uniqueness and what is basically criteria of uniqueness is not the same with respect to a constructive professional is working on the rule of RDBMS. So definitely an analyst will analyze this table further. He will analyze this table further and sees that finally there should be some column that can satisfy the uniqueness compulsorily and the total data can be considered unique by nature. So he is extending the table to the next level. He is extending the table to the next level by adding one email ID column. In that way, analyst can be adding extra number of columns by requirement. Now let us just try to understand one thing. Can 2 people have the same email ID? No. So in this table, now if I am collecting million students data, can I say that 2 students will have the same email ID now? No. Because if the name of the mail is same, the server will never be same. The server name is same, then the mail name will never be same. So technologically I can promise that even if I am collecting million students into my database, by email ID I can consider them as uniqueness or not now? Uniqueness. Now I have a question. In this case of analysis, because of which column the uniqueness can be promised? Email ID. So one single column is saying that I can provide you uniqueness throughout the life. Do you agree with me now? So now can I say that this table is an entity integrity? Yes or no? It depends. You can neither say yes, you can neither say no. Because entity integrity rule is same, but by requirement of the domain, its criteria of analysis can change. In a project, email ID can definitely become a wonderful column for the sake of the uniqueness and also entity integrity. But in this project, I cannot accept my email ID for entity integrity. I can accept email ID for uniqueness. So how you can say that? Let us catch up with the issues. Two students will never have the same email ID, that is true. Therefore, email ID will never get duplicated, that is a fact. Uniqueness wise, we don't have any complaints. Now the question is it compulsory that a student should have an email ID? Do you think that a student should have an email ID? No, that cannot become a mandatory rule in the business of education. Nobody can tell you that if you have email ID, then only will give you admission into the college. So email ID is not compulsory for a student to exist in your college. When you say it's not compulsory, then definitely that column can contain null. Now whenever it is containing null, if I have two nulls, how you can say which one is unique by nature? Because null is absence of data. You cannot promise uniqueness on that. So that's one reason, even though email ID can be unique by nature, it cannot support entity integrity. Second, a student's email ID can change or it cannot change. It can change. Anytime a student can change his email ID. A column that is accepted for entity integrity, I'm making a point very clear to you, a column that is accepted for entity integrity, that column can never be updated. You should not update that particular column. If that column is becoming updatable, then that column is not looking suitable for what? Entity integrity. So, these are the fundamental reasons why I cannot accept email ID for entity integrity, but I can accept email ID for what? Uniqueness. An analyst will be analyzing the table so seriously before he can make it become an entity. In this way, how many stages he will analyze? Nobody can decide that. It is only the discretion of the analyst by what circumstances is considering the table to become an entity. There can be multiple different number of phases like this. By the time he makes it get completed, in that particular process only, we are working with the next level. Now your analyst is adding one column called as student ID. And he is trying to say that every student should have a student ID, which is incrementing automatically with every student who is admitted or joined in our school or college now. And he is very clearly saying that this student ID can never be repeated, it can never be updated, it cannot be reallocated. These all rules are given by whom now? Analyst. Therefore, he is forcing the programmers to accept that column, enforce the integrity. So, because of the student ID, can I promise that every student will be unique by nature? Yes or no? Yes. A student should have a student ID or may have a student ID? Should have a student ID. A student ID can be changed for one student or it cannot be changed. Once allocated, it cannot be changed. If the student is removed, one student is removed from the college, then can I reallocate that student ID to another student in my college? No way. So I think it's looking more suitable for sake of what? The uniqueness with entity integrity rules. Therefore that becomes a primary key. So now I can say that my table is perfect with entity integrity. Now this column is promising uniqueness or it's not promising uniqueness? Promising uniqueness. Accepted by all the remaining number of rules also. So if this becomes a primary key, then this email ID column is also unique or it's not unique by nature? Unique. But it's not accepted for primary key. Therefore, that email ID column becomes alternate key. So any column in your table which promises uniqueness is not the column that is definitely confirmed for primary key. If confirmed for absolute uniqueness on that entity, it becomes a primary key. All the remaining columns will become what? Alternate keys. So an analyst will be analyzing your tables thoroughly, continuously to fix one primary key. The moment one primary key is fixed, the table comes into which state? Entity integrity state. Therefore, I can declare a primary key is not important for us. In your project, why your tables are having primary keys, can you explain us for that? Your business and its requirement has to be explained to us about a primary key. Rather than a student who is learning database, he comes and says, I know how to declare a primary key. We don't get excited on that. Be very, very clear about it. Now, whenever you come to the construct, the next level of integrity is domain integrity. Entity integrity is only taking the responsibility of which kind of quality? Entity integrity is taking care of which kind of quality? Information should be unique by nature. It is uniqueness is there, no doubt. But which kind of uniqueness? Information uniqueness, not data uniqueness. Be very clear about that. So within your table, the total information what you are collecting, record by record in comparison, it will become what? Unique by nature. That is what it is trying to say. And because of that, the whole table is managing overall uniqueness of the information. But that is not sufficient. Then comes your domain integrity. When you come to the concept of the domain integrity validates the entries for a given column. Means for every column, what kind of data you are entering, on that data we will concentrate very seriously and we will tell what should happen. That is where your domain integrity comes into the picture. So domain integrity will be column by column basis. Therefore, for the total table, how many entity integrities can be there? Only one. But for one table, any number of domain integrities can be there. The more the number of domain integrities you promise, what is the advantage? More the quality. So domain integrity can be enforced in multiple different number of ways, restricting the data type. Declaring a data type on the column is also one kind of domain integrity only. By format, check constraints. By range of possible values, which can be done using foreign keys, checks, defaults and not nulls. Everything we will see when we come into the practicality. Domain integrity major concentration is on the data that is being collected, but not actually on the information. Now I want your answers looking into this particular table. My student ID column is following the domain integrity or it's not following the domain integrity? It's following, because every student is having one student ID. All student IDs are auto-incrementing by 1. They are exactly 4 digits by nature. Some style and structure is there now. Now, coming to the student's name, it's following the domain integrity or it's not following the domain integrity? It's not following. Why? Some names are in init caps, some names are in uppercase, some names are in lowercase. That's a very bad way of collecting the data into the table. So you collect the data in any one of the case. That is, anything that doesn't matter, you should collect the data only in one of the case. Then you can say that domain integrity is getting applied. Now, coming to the construct of date of birth. Now, can I say date of birth is in domain integrity or not? Yes or no? No. Why? Every student should have a date of birth and few students' date of births are missing. Next, date of admission is in domain integrity or is not in domain integrity? Not in domain integrity. Why? Every student should have a date of admission. You are missing some date of admission data here. Not only that, other level of features also can be there, we will see. Now this course name is in domain integrity or is not in domain integrity? Yes or no? It depends now. You need to be very carefully checking this. Now, let us watch carefully. Almost everything is okay. This Srinivas is looking confusion for us because you are saying Srinivas is MBA. his date of birth is 98 and he joined the college in 2007, so almost average 9 years. So having 9 years of age, is he eligible for MBA is a concerned factor now. Therefore, domain integrity cannot be checked only within that column. You have to check domain integrity by cross-verifying multiple columns also. So if your table is having some 200 columns, just imagine your analysis, it should go with domain integrity standards. Now, whenever you are dealing with a course fee, your course fee is domain integrity oriented or non-domain integrity oriented. It all depends on your analysis. Watch carefully. This course for its uniqueness is definitely depending upon the student ID. Yes or no? So every student should have a course. Now when you come to the course fees, it's depending directly on the student ID or not? No. Course fees is depending upon course name, and course name is depending upon what? Course fee. Therefore, according to the rule of normalization, these two columns should not be part of this table. These two columns at any point of time, they cannot be part of this table. They should be separated. Why? Because there is a transitive dependency that is taking place in the whole process. Why? In one course we can have only one student or many students? Many students. If suppose multiple students are studying MBA, all these students will be paying almost all the same fees, no? So when your course is repeating, why the fees is also repeating? Redundancy is increasing. So one column's integrity may depend upon another column or multiple columns. So how many times you are saying that you can create tables by this kind of analysis? We have already created table, man. We are not denying that. But how many times we know that our table is so perfect by its nature? Next. Email ID is in domain integrity or it's not in domain integrity? Come on, man. It's in or it's not? It's not. Why? Few students are missing the email IDs. Be careful. Okay, wherever there is a null, don't say that. A student may have an email ID. Should have an email ID is not a rule. Therefore, everywhere you cannot say if null is there, it's not in domain integrity. So, the difference between a student and an analyst or a real-time developer comes in this kind of analysis. So, technically, how many number of times you are looking into this and you can avoid the table not to get into that. Then you can say that your integrity rules are perfect and the quality is guaranteed. So how to apply that? Time tells us, let us not worry. The next kind of integrity is referential integrity. Now whenever you are dealing with referential integrity, the main thing you can always say is, it preserves the defined relationship between the tables when records are entered or deleted. The main interesting fact about referential integrity is, it will remember or it will preserve the defined relationship. Means it's one mechanism of storing and stocking your rules of the business such that any kind of execution you do in your business, it can be done only by the referential integrity as a standard. So whenever a record is inserted, whenever a record is deleted, whenever a record is updated, referential integrity can always tell you whether you can do those transactions or not. So transactional quality can always be promised by using what now? Referential integrity. It always ensures, referential integrity always ensures that any data by key is consistent throughout your database. So referential integrity is implemented in real time with the help of foreign keys. Be very clear about that. So we can start with how it will prevent you or how it will help you in implementing quality. If you are implementing referential integrity constraint, you cannot add at least one record into your table without having a parental data for that at any point of time. You cannot associate a child record without having a parental record. You cannot delete a parent from your table when its corresponding childs are existing. So you can just control every transaction in a very perfect way whenever you are trying to work with a concept of referential integrity. Referential integrity will give the life to your particular database. Entity integrity promises that object is ready. Referential integrity promises that object is active by its implementation. So implementation activeness comes from referential integrity. Existential process comes through primary keys, entity integrities. Therefore, these two integrities are not planned properly, your system goes for a failure. Therefore, for any small or big application, it's very important. If you can watch carefully, in the previous case I said that course name and course fee to be part of the same table is not acceptable because they are breaking the domain. Now you can just watch. I separated the columns of course name and course fees into another table, and I'll call this as a parental table, which is a table exclusively for the sake of registering the course now. Now what you are doing is, you are taking this course ID and you are making it come into this location as a foreign key. Then automatically this table is now looking more better. You are repeating only the course IDs, but you are not repeating the course name and course fees. In that way, any number of extra columns in my course information table, it is definitely controlled by redundancy, I hope so. No? So referential integrity plays a very, very important role in the construct of the applications. Therefore, I can declare a primary key, I can declare a check constraint, I can declare a not null, I can declare a foreign key. These all things will never look interesting for us. Why? Because if you are a database developer, you can definitely declare them. But do you know the reasons why you should declare them? You do not have the clarity of why you should declare them, then definitely the system goes for the sake of a failure. So, with these three integrities, maximum amount of quality will be achieved, no doubt. With these three integrities, maximum amount of quality will be achieved. Even after that, if quality is not coming into the picture by expectation of the end user. Because end user expects what quality, how you know? You have achieved maximum what he is expecting from you, but his expectations can change. Then comes into the picture the rule of the user-defined integrity. User-defined integrity is nothing but any kind of rule that is not falling straightforward into any of the previous three integrities what we discussed. And these business rules, they have to be dynamically programmed, and these business rules, they have to be dynamically implemented, and that is done generally with the help of the triggers. Within Oracle, we implement them using the concept of database triggers using PLSQL. The reason, so with only SQL can I have a career? Many times students ask me, you can have a career but you are not a solution provider. So industry is expecting always solution providers. So you want a solution provider level job, then definitely you should see that you are having good amount of skill sets in PLSQL. Because only when your resume carries PLSQL, industry believes that you are a solution provider. Be very clear about it. Therefore, SQL with the PLSQL is a complete course, at least to one level of the industry what you want to achieve. So will you say that with only SQL I cannot get a job? I am not saying that. Your career cannot be complete. So whenever you deal with the user-defined integrities is exclusively nothing but a rule that is specified by the programmer with respect to the standards that are dictated by the end user. And for this, no integrity can help you directly. You should write programming and you have to work out. We can give user-defined integrities only when we know some programming language. So for an Oracle developer, we have an advantage. We don't need to learn any third-party programming language. We have our own language called as what? PLSQL, that can make us achieve everything what the end user is expecting. So how in Oracle these integrities can be implemented? In Oracle, these integrities are implemented with a concept called as constraints. So when you say constraint, it is nothing but it's the rule of the business. Constraint means it's rule of the business, which is going to help you not to allow unwanted data into your tables. So according to Oracle, there are 6 types of constraints. Be very clear about that. Oracle provides 6 types of constraint: not null constraint, unique constraint, primary key constraint, foreign key constraint, check constraint and ref constraint. Out of these 6 constraints, whatever you are seeing here, these first 5 constraints are relational constraints. And this ref constraint is object-oriented constraint. Therefore, you cannot understand these 5 referential constraints or like relational constraints properly. You cannot understand this object-oriented constraint, which you will see at the later stages. Now, whenever you deal with your constraints, not null constraint and check constraint, even if you are not understanding immediately, I really don't worry about that. But unique constraint, primary key constraint and foreign key constraint, if you are not catching and you are not understanding that immediately as I am discussing with you, then I can definitely tell you your next upcoming chapters will be out of your control. Later on, don't say that sir, I am having trouble in upcoming chapters. Every chapter will have trouble if you are not coming properly out of these 3 constraints when I am discussing with them seriously by definition and implementation. And here itself I want to make one point clear to you. You are good in your unique constraint, that you can always understand your primary key constraint. You are good in your primary key constraint in unique, then you can always understand your foreign key constraint. Anywhere you do the mistake of not catching these constraints properly, every chapter I am going to add in the coming days, you will have definitely 40% trouble. Sir, I have a problem in joints. Your problem is not in joints, your problem is in constraints. So I have a problem in subqueries. Your problem is not in subqueries, your problem is in constraints. You have to come and sit in another batch and listen to whatever I am trying to say behind these things. So now your responsibility seriously starts from your side. Actually, to be frank enough, let me tell you, if I remove this chapter from this area, and if I start discussing with you with my next chapters, I will be the most happiest person. Why? Because 70% of the industry requirement you will never know. And definitely you will come to that realization after you get into your job. Till you don't get into your job, you will never know that you are missing that particular process. This chapter is very, very important, whether you like or you do not like. Actually, to be frank enough, keeping this chapter here is waste of time for me, because these kind of chapters in this market, they are generally called as sidelined and they are weekend chapters. Weekend chapters in the sense, announce a class in the weekend, that is Saturday or Sunday, and definitely we know that on Saturday and Sunday 40% people will never come. Even for regular classes itself, it never happens. If you say special class, definitely 40% people will never come. Out of the remaining 60% people who are coming in, Saturday, Sunday means long class. It's called, which I generally call them as marathon class. Marathon means it starts but it never stops. So around 8 o'clock you can tell the student to come, and leisurely he will come at 9 o'clock definitely. And faculty also know that he will come at 9 o'clock, therefore faculty can come at 9:30. And then a class will begin. Any human being, maximum after 2 hours, his brain never works. It's a fact. 1 hour is the fundamental limit. 1.5 hours is okay. 2 hours is saturated. His body will be in the class, brain is outside the class. But even then we can do tamasha as if both are listening, both are speaking. Take the class continuously for 4-5 hours and then say, shall we have a break? The moment you say break, out of the 60 students, 60% will never come after the break. We also know that. And the remaining 20% also who came, out of the 10% came to see whether other came or not. And after coming, they'll think that, "Arey yaar, aake pas gaya, bekar mein." And the 10% will be listening. Take the class up to evening 6 o'clock continuously. Then tell them Sunday bhi class rahega. Faculty sure knows that nobody will come on Sunday. So these kind of chapters can be dealt like that. And when students are not coming, it's better to complete them. Now, I'm keeping this topic in the mainstream means you should understand the importance that this chapter plays for us. Your 70% burden in logic, you can always close from this particular chapter and make the things easy in the next levels. Therefore, your concentration is in your hands, not in my hands. Delivery is in my hands. Therefore, sir, I did not understand unique constraint. You will have definitely problem with the primary key constraint. Sir, I did not understand primary key and unique constraint. Definitely you will have a great deal of trouble with foreign key constraint. So I did not understand these three constraints. Then next chapters, why you are sitting, that is a trouble for me now actually. Because why you are sitting is a confusion for me now. Because every next chapter will have a problem for you. Well in advance I am telling you. So you have any pending works you have to close definitely from now onwards very seriously. Because slowly our speed increases, because we have vast amount of syllabus we have to cover up. Until my fundamentals are completed, I will be very slow. Then I will pick up my speed very seriously, I am telling you. Therefore, nocturnal constraint I did not understand, no problem for me. Not an issue. You can understand that later on. So check constraint is also not understood, not at all a problem. But these three constraints you did not understand. It can be a definite problem for you in practicality. Ref constraint I told you, when I feel you are looking mature for object orientation, I will cover ref constraint. Now your constraints can be declared either at column level or table level. We call that as either inline style or out of line style. So this is a very simple aspect to understand. Basically, suppose say like I am creating a table, I am saying create table, I am saying table name. And I am just trying to say column 01, we are having data type along with the size. Now all these days we used to keep a comma and we used to write the next column. Now you can just go with constraint. We'll give the constraint name. And we will give constraint type, which is provided by Oracle. You are declaring the constraint immediately after the column or no? So this kind of style of constraint is called as column level or inline style. Now in this way you can have your constraints along with the columns as many as you want. Now later on you are just trying to go with the column name n. Okay, you are having some nth column, you are saying data type with all that size, whatever you are trying to provide. And last column should have a comma or should not have a comma? Should not have a comma. But I am keeping my comma means I am going for table level constraint. So I am just trying to say constraint. And every constraint will be having a name, that's what we said. So I am calling the constraint name. And then I am just trying to say constraint type, what is provided by Oracle. And I am giving the column name on which this constraint should be implemented. And suppose say like I am just closing my table. Now this type of constraint declaration is called as table level or out of line, or it's called as out of line style. Sir, column level is better or table level is better? Nothing like that. Constraint should work for the business rule. You declare it anywhere, it should work. There are people who say that table level constraints are good, column level constraints are not good. These all things are trash. Finally, you declare the constraint anywhere, it should work for the rule. Try to understand this. So, you are declaring the constraint at your convenience by analysis either at table level or column level. There are certain constraints, you should definitely declare them at only column level. Those constraints, you cannot keep them at table level. There are certain constraints, they should be only at table level, they cannot be at column level. So such constraints you should remember and declare them exactly. If a constraint can be declared either at table level or column level, anywhere you declare, that doesn't matter. So locating yourself for the requirement of the constraint properly is your job. So every constraint is managed by Oracle with a constraint name in the metadata. Since you declare a constraint, the constraint has a name in the metadata. Therefore, when we declare a constraint, if we do not give the name, Oracle automatically puts a name for the constraint. But my suggestion is, even though Oracle can give you the name of the constraint, you better see that you are not taking the name of the Oracle, what it is giving. Better declare your own name of the constraint. So why? Maintenance wise, it becomes easy for us. Within one single user, two constraint names cannot be same. If you give the constraint name same, you will get an error. So you have to always manage some methodology such that your constraint names are not becoming duplicated. Rather than depending on Oracle's constraint naming conventions, better declare your name by following some convention so that no two constraints can go for the sake of what? Failure, or they can go for the sake of the select any kind of duplication. So you need to check that. Maintenance wise, it becomes easy for you. Whenever you declare your constraint name, means you are declaring the name of the constraint, and then you will use this constraint keyword. So this constraint keyword is saying that you are going to give the name of the constraint. Now there are certain standards to give the name of the constraint. When I am picking up, I will tell you. The constraint clause can be part of create an alter table or create an alter views. Anywhere you can make use of them. And Oracle does not support constraints on object-oriented types directly. So when you come with any user-defined objects or nested tables or arrays and refs and logs, Oracle doesn't allow any kind of constraints declaration. So don't you think that if I don't have constraints declaration there, then definitely my system can go for a failure? No. Why? Because objects are always controlled by methods. So the person who is designing the method, it is his responsibility to design a proper constraint and then start managing it. So that's your fundamental theory. What you have to definitely pick up yourself to the rule of the constraint. Now I'll pick up each constraint independently and I'll be working. Now I'm telling you my methodology here. I'll give you the definition of the constraint. I'll give you the explanation to that particular constraint. I'll pick up a pseudo example for that particular piece of the constraint along with the syntax. We will test the constraints and then we'll go to the next constraint. Whatever example I'm picking up on my screen, you don't need to really type it or you don't need to really write it. Please concentrate on what I'm trying to do on the screen, because as I'm typing, I'll be speaking, I'll be explaining, I'll be executing and I'll be testing. All I'll be doing parallelly. Every example for each constraint is there in your book and in your material that is given to you in the form of ebook. Better see that you are following that and you can type it later on. And you practice. So first I wanted to catch the concept of the constraint very carefully. Why, sir? Out of 10 people can answer constraints in interview rooms. All 10 can answer constraints in interview rooms. 8 people cannot tell the reason and the concept for the constraint. So 8 people cannot give us the reasons and the concepts behind the constraints. This finally, how many are successful in constraints? 2 people are successful seriously in interview rooms. You want to be part of those 2 people, you have to listen carefully. You want to be part of the 8 people, you don't need to listen. Why? Because anybody will learn constraints if he is learning Oracle. Out of those 2 students, once again, only one will be successful in implementation when it comes into the project. The another one guy will not be failure. He has confusions once he comes to practicality. So you want to be the one who can confidently work in project for constraint implementation, then you have to be more serious. So with every topic I will tell you the ratio of how many will know, how many cannot know and how many cannot do. You check your ratio and you start preparing for that. So tomorrow as soon as I am starting, I will start with not null constraint and we will test the not null constraints and we will complete unique also in the process. Be very clear. So this chapter you can keep absolute concentration. 70% of the upcoming chapters, unwanted headache and that logical burden will be eliminated. That I can promise you here itself. So it's in your hands to concentrate now. Thank you. Once again with you tomorrow. Twenty-six.